Hi, my name is Miss Baker, and I'm going to speak to you today about Media Studies GCSE and why it could be the option for you in Year 10. So this is a new course, and we've only been running it for the past year, but the children going into Year 11 next year have really enjoyed it so far, so hopefully you will too. Okay, so the specification is broken down into an exam and coursework. So there are two exams and there's one piece of coursework. The first exam is about representations in advertising, video games, and newspapers. So what that means, representation means this idea of how people are presented in these pieces of media. Okay, so how are people presented in advertising? How are they presented in video games? And how are they presented in newspapers? So we examine representation through a number of different ways. We look at signs and symbols. We look at audience theory, we look at representation theory. This part of the course involves a lot of representation of gender, involves a lot of analysis of gender. So in section A, advertising, we look at how the representation of gender has changed through adverts through time. So we go from the 1950s all the way through to the 2020s, and we look at how gender and the way gender is presented has changed through those adverts. The next segment, video games, again looks at gender and looks at how gender is presented through video games. So, are there more female protagonists in video games now than there used to be? Is the representation of gender more nuanced in video games than it used to be? Or do we still see quite a flat and 2D version of gender in video games? This segment of the course again involves a lot of analysis through imagery, through audience analysis. The final part of this part of the course is newspapers. So while you may not see a newspaper in your house, and while a lot of us maybe don't read newspapers anymore, we still analyse how people and events and ideas are represented in newspapers. So obviously, in order to do that, we look at a variety of newspapers first. And then we look at how events are portrayed differently in different newspapers. So, for example, this look these two images here look at Brexit and how Brexit was represented in the Mirror and in the Daily Mail. And then these two covers here look at Donald Trump and how his election was represented in the Mirror and the Times, just as an example. Another example could be the recent Black Lives Matter protests in Bristol and the removal of the Colston statue and how those are represented in newspapers. So this part of the course, as I say, is an exam and it is worth 30% of the qualification. The next part of the course that we're going to look at um, is again this section. So section B looks at music. So we've got one exam, 1 hour and a half. First section representation, and the second section is music. So we look at the music industry. We look at how media language representation is shown in the music industry, and we look at audiences and who the music industry is trying to appeal to. So just an example here of Kerrang magazine. Kerrang magazine, who do they appeal to and why? Who are their readers and why? What are their I guess their added on elements? So for example, Kerrang has a radio station. How does this help them to appeal to their audience? So we look at the music industry and we look at artists and the artists these media companies use. Okay. The next part of the course we'll start going into in year 11, and this is Wales on television. So we again, this assesses media industries, audiences, language representation, and there is one question um, on a product chosen by us. We haven't yet decided what this product will be. We maybe will decide together as a class. So I think it'll probably be Gavin and Stacey, but there are other options. One of them is Weatherman Walking. And we would analyse the way that Wales is presented on television through audiences, through media language, and through representation. So, how do the characters present Wales? How do they represent what a Welsh person is? Then the second part is contemporary Hollywood film. So you will look at media industry audiences and media language in this section. You won't look at representation, okay? So this is more about the industry and more about how audiences are targeted by the industry through certain elements of media language. So posters, trailers, films themselves, okay? We'll look at the Marvel franchise. We'll look at the DC franchise, and then we analyze those films and we analyze them through media language, okay, through camera shots and angles, through color, through the way that they present things, okay. The final element of this course is the coursework. So 40% of media studies is coursework, and this is completed over the course of the 2 years. So it'll start in year 10 and then it runs on into year 11. There are a number of different things you can do as part of this coursework. So I've got all these examples here. So you could make a DVD front cover, for example, or you could create a sequence from a genre film aimed at mainstream 18 to 30-year-old audiences. So all these tasks are broken down either into print or online or film, okay? So for each industry, film, music, advertising, TV, and magazines, there is an online or print option or a video option, okay. So for example, for music, you might create the website for a new band or artist, or you could create a sequence from a music video. You could create adverts from a marketing campaign, or you could create magazine adverts for a marketing campaign for a new product or service. You could create a sequence from a new television program, or create a homepage and two other link pages for a website. Okay, so it's very much divided into print and video. Obviously, depending on what you're interested in, depending on your skill set, you can choose something that works for you. So I hope this was useful. Please come and speak to me if you would like to find out anything more about media studies. And yeah, I hope hopefully see you soon. Thanks. Bye.